Tensions are running high across the country over immigration raids and National Guard deployments. The courts are now getting involved as residents fight back. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has the latest from Los Angeles.
The FBI cyber analyst's hands froze over her keyboard. 11 days of decryption. Military-grade encryption. 3-layered firewalls that had resisted every tool Quantico had thrown at them. And then, at 2:41 in the morning, the final layer collapsed. The screen blinked. The first file opened. Not a spreadsheet. Not a wire transfer. A photograph. Senator Daniel Whitmore, seated at a candlelit private dinner table. Relaxed, unhurried, a glass of red wine in his hand. Across from him, 2 men the DIA had been hunting across 4 countries for 4 years. All 3 of them were smiling. The timestamp stamped into the bottom right corner read October 3rd. 72 hours before Senator Whitmore rose on the Senate floor and cast the deciding vote that stripped DIA cross-border surveillance funding by 40%. This one image ended a 14-month investigation. Here is how it started.
The most effective drug-seizing teams in the entire country. I said I wish I told them earlier, take them and put them in every major city in the country.
3:17 a.m. Chicago's Calumet Harbor. A shipping container flagged for routine inspection. Except nothing about this container was routine. Beneath 12,000 pounds of frozen agricultural product, DIA agents pulled back a false floor and found 2.1 tons of cocaine and 860,000 fentanyl pills. Street value, $58 million. But the drugs were not the story. Sewn into the lining of a duffel bag was a laminated card. On it, an 8-digit alphanumeric code. The agents photographed it, bagged it, and sent it to Quantico. They didn't know yet what they were looking at. Neither did the cartel. Because that code, that single laminated card, would unravel one of the most sophisticated political corruption networks ever documented on American soil. 3 questions no one could answer. Not yet. First, who were these codes being transmitted to, and from where? Second, why did the DIA's own raid alert system generate a false negative on this container not once but twice? And third, whose name was encrypted inside the network's top-tier command server, buried under 11 days of military-grade protection? By the end of this story, the answers to those 3 questions will be worse than anything you are imagining right now. Stay with me. FBI Special Operations, DIA strike teams, ICE tactical units, and DIA cyber analysts mobilized across 2 cities simultaneously. Washington, D.C. and Chicago, Illinois. Operation Codename Iron Dusk. What they were about to find in the first 10 minutes would rewrite everything they thought they knew. And what they found in the final hour would shake the architecture of American law enforcement to its foundation. 4:17 a.m. Chicago, Illinois. FBI breach teams hit 6 locations simultaneously. Flashbangs cracked the pre-dawn silence across the West Loop district. 6 SWAT teams, moving in near total darkness, converged on the Meridian Grand Hotel, a 52-story luxury tower that the DIA had quietly identified over 6 months as the Sinaloa cartel's primary operational command center for the entire Midwest corridor. Penthouse suites had been converted into fully wired surveillance hubs, with encrypted satellite uplinks, reinforced server rooms, and weapons caches that could have supplied a small standing army. Doors came down in seconds. Suspects scattered across corridors. 2 cartel lieutenants were found in Suite 4208, attempting to burn documents in a bathroom sink using hand sanitizer as an accelerant. A third tried to exit through a window on the 44th floor. He didn't make it far. At the same moment, 3 industrial warehouses on Chicago's south side were simultaneously breached. Agents moved through stacked corridors of agricultural shipping crates. What was inside them was anything but agricultural. 8 tons of cocaine. 1.4 million fentanyl pills, each pressed with a distinctive blue stamp that matched pills forensically linked to more than 400 overdose deaths across Cook County in the previous 18 months alone. $12 million in vacuum-sealed cash, sorted and bundled by denomination. 47 military-grade assault rifles, 12 RPGs, and stacks of body armor bearing the stenciled logos of 2 Chicago-area private security firms. But the real discovery came from Penthouse Suite 4401. 3 encrypted servers, still running, still transmitting when agents walked in. And beside them on the table, a leather-bound ledger. Handwritten, meticulous, organized by month. Inside, a list of payments. Badge numbers in the left column. Dollar amounts on the right. Monthly disbursements. Quarterly bonuses. Larger sums circled in red ink. The DIA analyst on site picked up her phone and called her supervisor in Quantico. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "We are going to need every cyber unit you have," she said. "Right now." What was on those servers? That's when the investigation stopped being a drug bust and became a manhunt for something far more dangerous. If you think this is big, the next discovery will completely change how you see this story. Stay with me. 6 hours later. FBI Cyber Command, Quantico, Virginia. The servers from Suite 4401 ran on encryption architecture the Bureau's top analysts had encountered only once before, inside a foreign intelligence operation traced to Eastern Europe 2 years prior. It took a team of 8 working in overlapping rotations to crack even the first partition. What they found on the other side was the full architecture of a financial network the team quietly assigned the internal codename Phantom Crown. 43 shell companies, registered across Delaware, Wyoming, and Nevada. Ghost accounts operating out of the Cayman Islands, Malta, and Dubai. Cartel drug proceeds flowing in, then filtered through a chain of Chicago area restaurant groups and a nonprofit education foundation with an active ears status. From the nonprofits, the cleaned money moved into a series of political action committees. And from those PAC, the financial trail ran, cleanly, deliberately, almost invisibly, to a single campaign fund. A fund that had received $5.8 million across 26 months. The campaign fund belonged to Senator Daniel Whitmore of Illinois. One analyst, a 29-year-old forensic accountant on her 3rd year with the Bureau, leaned back in her chair, stared at the ceiling, and stayed silent for a very long time. Her hands were not steady. She had voted for Senator Whitmore 2 years ago. Her supervisor read over her shoulder, stood up straight, and said nothing for 30 seconds. Then, "Get the director on the phone." That answered the first open loop. The alphanumeric codes sewn into that duffel bag weren't just routing signals. They were authorization confirmations. Every time a Sinaloa drug convoy needed cleared passage through a Chicago corridor, a code was transmitted to a secure relay server. The server returned a green confirmation, and that confirmation originated from an IP address registered to a building on Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. Senator Whitmore's district office. Pause for a moment. Think about what someone with Senate-level access could quietly do for a drug network operating across 6 states. Because the answer is coming in 60 seconds, and it is worse than you think. 5:23 a.m. Joint Task Force Command Center. Chicago. The digital map on the main display pulsed with 48 red operational markers. Not just Chicago. Milwaukee, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Kansas City, Detroit. The scale of the network, now fully visible, demanded a response that matched its size. 1,200 federal agents deployed, 60 SWAT teams on the ground, 18 Black Hawk helicopters in the air, DIA tactical units mobile across 4 states, ICE strike teams positioned at 3 border relay corridors, DES analysts feeding live intelligence from 6 monitoring stations. In the 4 hours that followed, a staging compound outside Joliet, producing an estimated 300 kilograms of methamphetamine weekly, was raided and leveled. A safe house network in Chicago's Pilsen neighborhood was dismantled, and inside one of those houses, agents found 41 people. Men, women, and children. Trafficking victims moved as labor and leverage through the exact same corridors used for narcotics. They were brought out one by one into the cold pre-dawn morning. Separately, on the I-90 corridor, a Border Patrol dog handler working a convoy interception watched his dog alert hard on the 4th truck in a line of 6. He expected narcotics. When the rear doors opened, he stepped back and did not move for a long moment. It was not drugs. 11 people. Dehydrated. Terrified. Locked inside for more than 30 hours. The handler sat down on the asphalt with them and stayed until every paramedic had arrived. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Total operation seizures: 8.4 tons of narcotics, $67 million in cash and seized assets, 340 arrests, 89 illegal firearms, 14 armored vehicles. The network was coming down. The operation was working. And then the analysts cracked the final partition on the Penthouse server. And everything, every assumption, every conclusion, every clean headline being quietly prepared, collapsed in a single moment. This next part, I need you to focus, because this is where it stops being a cartel story and becomes something much, much darker. The seized servers did not just confirm that Senator Whitmore was on the Sinaloa cartel's financial payroll. They revealed something far more calculated, far more dangerous. The Sinaloa cartel had not simply bought a senator. They had put him to work as a legislative architect. Over 22 months, Senator Whitmore had quietly introduced, co-sponsored, amended, or shepherded the passage of 7 separate pieces of federal legislation. Each bill, examined individually, looked unremarkable. Technical amendments, budget line adjustments, procedural modifications buried inside larger omnibus packages. Together, they formed an invisible legal framework protecting the entire network. DIA cross-border operational authority, reduced. Federal asset forfeiture thresholds, capped at levels that made large seizures procedurally complex to process. Interagency data sharing protocols, restricted by a new committee review requirement that added a minimum 60-day delay. The FBI's ability to subpoena financial records in drug-related cases, blocked unless a secondary federal court approval was obtained first. The Sinaloa cartel had not just infiltrated the American legislative system. They had used it as a precision tool. They had written their own protection into law. Legally. Quietly. With a Senate vote count and a floor signature, federal investigators entered the Hart Senate office building in Washington, D.C. Senator Whitmore was mid-sentence during a live interview with a Chicago news station when the agents walked through his office doors. His press secretary stood up. His communications director moved toward the entrance. Nobody stopped moving. Senator Whitmore was read his rights on camera, in his own office, in front of his own staff. He did not speak. He did not look at the agents or at the cameras. He stared directly forward, hands cuffed in front of him, as federal agents moved methodically through every room, bagging hard drives, seizing document files, photographing whiteboards. The interview camera kept recording. The footage ran within the hour. Outside the Hart building, a small crowd had gathered on the Capitol steps. Among them stood a woman in a gray coat. She was holding a photograph, a young man, smiling, 19 years old in the picture. She held it flat against her chest with both hands. Her son had died 18 months earlier. A fentanyl pill. Traced, through the forensic chain, directly to a batch distributed through the Chicago network protected by Operation Phantom Crown. She did not hold a sign. She did not shout or speak to the cameras. She stood completely still and let the world move around her, holding her son's face up toward the October sky. Full internal audits had confirmed the breadth of the network's reach into law enforcement itself. 23 Chicago area police officers, 6 Border Patrol agents, 4 state court officials, 11 state legislative staffers, all on the cartel's recurring payroll. Monthly disbursements disguised as private consulting fees. Raid schedules forwarded to cartel leadership 48 hours before execution. Evidence flagged internally for procedural delays or disappearance. Patrol routes falsified to create protected transit corridors during drug convoy movements. This was not a few corrupted individuals acting independently. This was a parallel enforcement structure. A second operational force, fully embedded, answering not to the Constitution but to the Sinaloa cartel. The main villain had been arrested. 340 cartel members were in federal custody. The network had been dismantled. The corruption had been exposed. Justice, it appeared, had been served. Operation Iron Dusk was being called the most significant domestic cartel prosecution in a decade. Or so they thought. The FBI's internal review unit flagged a discrepancy that stopped the entire post-operation debrief process cold. Of the 340 individuals arrested during Iron Dusk, one was not a cartel member. One was a deep-cover DIA agent. embedded so completely inside the Sinaloa network's operational layer that his own agency had lost secure contact with him 8 months prior. His cover identity was intact. His real identity was unknown to every single arresting officer across every raid location. Somewhere inside the federal detention system, a DEA agent was sitting in a holding cell. And not one person on the task force knew which of the 340 it was. The Bureau was ordered to begin a full classified internal review. Quietly, urgently, immediately. In the state of Illinois alone, 2,400 people died of drug overdoses in the past year. 61% of those deaths involved fentanyl. Forensic analysis connected a significant portion of that supply directly to networks under the operational umbrella of Phantom Crown. 89 trafficking victims were recovered during Iron Dusk. Investigators believe more than 200 additional victims remain unaccounted for across the network's known transit routes. A 14-month investigation. Hundreds of agents across 5 agencies. And at the end of it, the trail did not end at a cartel warehouse or a border tunnel or a drug laboratory. It ended at a Senate office, at a man who swore an oath to protect the country he was quietly selling, one legislative amendment at a time. This is not just a crime story. This is a blueprint. It happened here. It is happening elsewhere. And power does not always need violence to survive. Sometimes it only needs silence, ambition, and the right signature on the right bill at the right moment. If you made it this far, you are paying attention to what most people choose to ignore. Tap like so this story reaches more people. Comment expose if you believe these systems need to be brought into the light. Share this with someone who needs to understand how deep corruption can go. And here is why you need to come back Friday. Senator Whitmore's seized files contained 4 additional names. 4 other individuals across 3 different states, all carrying documented financial connections to cartel-linked political action committees. What happened to those names? What decision did the Justice Department make about those files? That is the story no one inside Washington wants reported. And that is exactly where this investigation goes next. 3 more names, 3 different states. One network that does not end in Chicago. Part 2 drops Friday.
बरस गुजरे यो अर्ज कर दी मेरी सुनी तू अज फरियाद अल्लाह दस दीद महबूब प्यार रेदा बर्बाद करी तू बेशाद सच्ची ढूंढवाला माई रह काली पे हक सच तेरा मैं अरशाद दे अल्लाह। तुद में मलकल मौत पे जीते जदू पीर दा देर दीदार रब्बा। गोस पाक दा होवे दीदार हाज़र जदू मौत दी चाड़ से ओ मार रब्बा। पाक महबूब दे आज उस दम मैनू कुछ नहीं और दरकार रब्बा। हैदर शादा करी में सवाल पूरा दिन रात दी आल पुकार रब्बा। स्वागती दे महबूब तेरा मैनू और ना किसे दी बेलोड़ साई। देवी मैन महबूब दा करा साइयां देवी कुटियां बे किस्मतां बे जोड़ साई। अरे